Thank you for your interest in the MTSS problem-solving modules for Intervention and Progress Monitoring project. Here's a few notes just about question creation. Now that you've seen where you're going to be creating questions, I want you to try to vary as much as possible, but be sure to stick with the correct problem type. You don't want all questions to be cookie cutter of the next one. Sometimes it gets a little bit tough because you're writing about the same thing, or you feel like you're writing about the same thing. So just, try to change up the names and numbers. There's 6 problems when you come to a new problem type or when it's introduced. If you can just come up with 6 different scenarios there, it's fine to continue to use those same scenarios later when the different name, and just change the names and the numbers in the later weeks when that problem is in the mix again. Second bullet. So I want you to try to use problem situations familiar to students. Be sure to avoid writing about items that might be unfamiliar or stressful to some students. And some of the original ones, that made me laugh a little bit. There was some things about smashing spiders, and really as adults it may not bother us too much, but some kids feel like that's a tragedy, so avoid something like killing bugs in there. Killing is probably not a good idea anywhere. Avoid things that involve holidays, because there's some children that don't celebrate the same holidays, and so if you can avoid questions or scenarios around a holiday. And then there may be lots of children who don't get opportunities to do the kind of traveling that other children do. You're just trying to think of things, because we really want them to think about the math, things that are common to them that they can begin to relate to and make sense of. I want to encourage you to use a variety of names from different cultures. You can think about in your classrooms. I'm sure that we have a very diverse district, lots of different names. Do avoid ones that are so long and complicated that children would get stuck on trying to say that name every time. It's better for it to be a shorter name, but still look for names that are representative of different cultures. Consider the numbers you're using as you go through, and vary as much as possible within the parameters. Sometimes it's going to tell you a 2-digit number or a 3-digit number, and you need to stick with those kind of numbers if it's telling you that. But if it's within that, try to change up the numbers as much as you can so they're not solving the same problem over and over again. So the next bullet is that all progress monitoring probes in one module should contain 3 problem types found in the module and 1 review problem. I'm setting that up for you. I just wanted to alert you to it, because I don't want you to be surprised when you see a problem type on the probe that wasn't one that was in your module. So just be aware that there is going to be 1 review for every module. You're going to be creating for both supplemental and intensive intervention. I didn't click in it back when I clicked in the supplemental one, but you'll notice that on that original screen when I clicked on V, that there is a supplemental and an intensive. So if you're doing module V, you're going to be doing the same thing in module V or in the intensive that you did in the supplemental. You'll go through and you'll see those questions are there. You'll do both on that. When you switch to intensive for this intervention, it's going to be 15 minutes rather than 10 minutes 3 times a week, and no more than 1 to 3 students in a group. But the content of what's going on is going to be the same. So really, you could use the exact same content from intensive that you used for supplemental, and maybe you can change up the names and numbers just a little bit to make it a little bit different. But don't feel like you've got to come up with completely different scenarios because it's intensive. And the last bullet tells us that the multi-step should include 1 step from the current module and 1 step from the previous module. That's just what I mentioned about the multi-step problems earlier. Both steps don't have to be from the module that's being written. Like, one is more likely going to come from a previous module. Okay, well, that brings us to our last slide. I want you to feel free at any point, if you're working on this project, to contact me. There's a couple ways that you can get in touch with me. One, if you're working on something and you want to help me get right to what you're working on, let me show you this. Let's say you were working on Module B and you had a question about the content of one of your problems and you just wanted me to read over it. What you can do, you can alert me or assign it to me. You click on highlight it and you're going to add a comment. Ask me whatever it is you're wanting to ask me. Does this make sense? And the way you assign in Google, if you're not familiar, is you use the plus sign. You just type the email of the person that you want to assign it to. So I'm popping up there, so I'm just going to click it in. And this would normally say assign to so-and-so, and you just click yes. And you click assign, and what that just did is it just sent me an email to say that Susan Copeland gave you an assignment, and that lets me know that I need to come look at it. That's actually probably the best way to get my attention on, and it gets me right to where you need me to look. You can email me directly from a direct email, but just make sure you give me enough details to find what you want me to look at if you do that. So you can assign to me directly in there. You can call me on my office phone. This is my direct office phone number. I'm in and out of the office, so you might catch me, you might not there. So it may be a day or so before I call you back if I'm not in my office, if you leave a message on my office phone. But you could also call me or text me on my cell phone, which of course I have all the time, and it's my personal cell phone. So I'm going to ask you to stick with the 8 a.m. to 9 p.m. kind of courtesy and not calling too early or too late if you have questions. Anyway, so I just want you to know, like, and also I'm not in the habit really of answering the phone if it's a number I don't recognize. So if you're going to call me on my cell phone, you might want to text me first and say, hey, this is Jennifer. I'm getting ready to text you to ask you about the MTSS project, or I'm getting ready to call you. Just let me know who you are, and what I'll do when you text me, I'll save your phone number with your name, and when I see a name, I know it's somebody that I know calling, so I'll answer it. And of course, you can always email me. And I also want to just make sure you know that the stipend for completing this project is $300. So if you complete the supplemental and intensive, you will receive a stipend. Right now, it's looking like we need to have these completed by the middle of March. So if you're starting now, you have almost a month. I would estimate that it's going to take you about 12 hours. You might want to break it up a little bit, because what we discovered when we tried to work on this the first year that we worked on this, it's really hard to work on this for 6 hours, writing questions and coming up with ideas. So you may want to think about how you might break it up a little bit over the time period so that you're not working on it all at one time. So the stipend is $300. It'll take you probably around 12 hours, just to give you an idea. You know, if you're sitting in front of the TV watching TV too, it might slow you down a little bit, but you might also be faster than that. But just kind of have that amount of time in mind. What I need for you to do, two things, two really important notes here highlighted at the bottom. First, if you are willing to participate in this, now that you've heard all this information still, I need for you to email me directly letting me know that you watched the video and that you do want to participate. If you have a preference about working on fractions or multiplication, it'll be kind of a first come first serve on that, but let me know and I will assign you to the one you prefer if it's available. And I have one final note that's really important. This MTSS problem-solving project has required a significant amount of time from many CMS staff members and a large sum of money to complete. No one should use these materials without full training. By agreeing to participate and receive full access to these modules, you are also agreeing not to use or share these materials until further training and permission is granted. Thank you for your help in keeping these materials secure. I just want to end by saying how much I appreciate your willingness to participate in this project. The work we are doing is much needed but an impossible job by myself. Please know that you are appreciated, and if you participate, you will be recognized as a writer. Thank you, and I look forward to your email saying that you have viewed the training and are ready to begin. Talk to you soon.